Hi everyone, and happy Wednesday morning here from Marketing Finland. My name is Reetta Karjalainen and I work here as an education manager, and I'm happy to be opening this webinar about customer engagement and data collection. And we have here Gilles Lennarts, who is the sales manager, Nordics and Netherlands from Qualiphysio. You're very welcome, Gilles. We're happy to have you here. And we are making a recording of this webinar, and I would like to remind the audience to ask questions, a lot of questions, and please write them to the questions panel. So I'll just direct them to Gilles. But Gilles, you're welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, happy to be here. So I'm Gilles, based in Belgium. Been 5 years now at Qualiphysio, and yeah, as you already introduced me, over the last couple of years, my job at Qualiphysio has been to spread the word about us in the Nordic region. And yeah, today's goal will be to talk about the usage of interactive marketing. I will go a bit deeper in what exactly interactive marketing is to grow engagement, and of course, to use it to get to know the customers better just by collecting data about customers and consumers. Voila. So hello. So this is me. I actually repeated what I'm saying. So about 5 years ago, I think for the first time I flew to Finland. It was actually my first customer training, I think, with Amuletti in Tampere. So yeah, before COVID, it was still possible to fly around, and I was about. I tried to be there every month. So as you can see in the companies we work with, we for a large part work with media companies, so newspaper companies, because our founder was also the head of marketing of a big newspaper group here in Belgium. And Qualiphysio itself, maybe not unimportant to introduce what actually Qualiphysio is a SaaS platform, so software as a service platform that allows people without technical knowledge. So you can think of marketing teams, of journalists, of advertisers, to create any type of interaction and publish this on their digital channels, so their websites, their mobile apps, their social media channels. And of course, once there's interaction, there is an opportunity to collect data. So that's a bit the idea behind the platform and the link with the topic of today. So the agenda for today, we're gonna start with what exactly do we mean with interactions and interactive marketing. We're gonna try then to link this with engagement. What is it and why it matters, and then how you can measure it also. And then once you're engaging with a consumer, we're gonna go a step further into first and zero-party data. So we know, I think, already right now, after a year of messages around the fact that the third-party cookies will be going away, there's been a lot of talk about first and zero-party data, so we'll touch briefly upon it, and then try and explain how this, in the end, can build a bigger customer loyalty and have customers coming back. So brief intro first before we start again on what we do, what Qualiphysio is. So I mentioned it's a SaaS platform. It has 2 modules. One module on the left side, which is called Engage, to help you or any other advertisers to build engagement formats based on more than 50 templates. So you have quizzes and different gamification formats that you can publish on your website. So very often, if, for example, you're taking your morning coffee and you're on the website of Iltalehti and you see a quiz or a personality test or a poll there, this is made through the Qualiphysio platform. They can in turn and use that to, for example, gather data through forms and surveys, have people subscribe to their newsletters, and connect this to their data. The second module, of which Qualiphysio consists, is a loyalty platform or a loyalty module that allows brands to basically have a profile for a consumer that where they can earn points, earn different levels through activities like taking part in those quizzes or subscribing to those newsletters, but also through external activities. For example, by making a purchase on your website. And there's, for example, an integration with Shopify, or by consuming content, or by sharing on social. So the idea is that the loyalty program is not only linked anymore to the purchase that somebody makes, but really throughout the whole engagement journey that a consumer has with the brand, and can be rewarded based on every touch point, on every kind of behavior you actually want your consumer to show. And of course, the rewards linked to those as well. In terms of format, to give you an idea, because I mentioned there's 50 templates, there's so quizzes and contests, everything where a consumer can be correct or incorrect, can be educated. And there are, of course, different variations where, for example, you will have a swiper where you create a custom Tinder, and there is a kind of Tinder UX. There's any type of open-ended formats, so no real right or wrong questions, but more formats where you can ask for the opinion of the consumer, for example, in a survey, or where we can personalize our experience by showing a very specific call to action based on the answers that you're giving in a survey. For example, in the personality test, I'm answering a couple of questions about my favorite travels. For example, I like to go hiking in the mountains, but I still want to combine it with the sun. So at the end, I get, for example, the proposal to go to the Italian mountains. Then there's, of course, some pure gamification formats and user-generated content. So basically the formats where you let the audience do the work for you, where you ask people to share their favorite pictures, videos, and pieces of writing, and you can allow these to be voted on and all those kind of things. So that's in a nutshell about what Qualifio is. So interactive marketing, it's a phrase we try to repeat again and again, because actually gamification doesn't really cover the load, because a lot of, let's say, serious companies like banks and insurance companies will say, look, gamification doesn't fit with our brand. But that's also the thing. It's not only gamification, but really the interaction that we are talking about with the consumer that is important. So, for example, what you see here, very similar to the example already I gave. Instead of just showing an advertisement with, this is our skin cream, use our skin cream. Instead of that, we're going to ask to the consumer, share us maybe some information about your skin tone. What kind of color does your skin have? Is it greasy? Is it dry? And based on that, we could propose not only a product, but a skin routine. Like for me, for example, as a, I was going to say young man, I don't know if I at 30 can still call myself a young man, but I still maybe need to be educated a bit around, okay, skincare, what should I use? Not only what products, but also what exactly should you do in the morning or in the evening? And basically these kind of interactions can help you to know more about the consumer and personalize the experience. And in the end, this is also going to be much more effective because there is really a call to action that is not just purchase or don't purchase. So if we then talk on engagement, we can actually use a very similar example. So I was here on the website of Ilta Sanomat. I saw here an advertising for instrumentarium for glasses, and it's a bit like I already mentioned before. You have two options: you click or you don't click. There is an offer, but there is no information about me, about the consumer, that goes back to instrumentarium. Do I already have glasses? Yes or no? Do I need glasses? Yes or no? Am I wearing lenses? Yes or no? This is information that was before also much more easily accessible to the browser because of the third-party cookies, but is now becoming much more difficult to know about the consumer. And that's why these type of interactions that we mentioned can be a great way to get to know more about the consumer and also personalize then the experience, which will improve the clicks. An example here from Sinsam, I think it was a collaboration they had with Alma Media, so could be Iltalehti or Amulehti or one of the newspaper websites, but they published a personality test on their website. where again, there's a couple of questions about your preferences or about the shape of your head. And at the end, instead of just showing all the glasses there are, they say, no, there's 2 types of glasses that are fitting or that we would propose to you as a consumer, the one from Arneson and the one from Stella McCartney. So that limits the choice also and makes it very personalized, which, as we mentioned before, also then increases conversion. I said gamification isn't all of it, but it can also be part of it. So another example here in Finland from Nestle is with fitness, cereal bowl catcher. So again, if we look at the engagement, what's interesting, so people can find a code on their cereal box, so it's linked to a purchase. They can then go to the Nestle website and they can use this code to participate in this cereal catcher. So it's a way for Nestle to link the online and the offline worlds, to have people engage with the fitness brands, because they're all the time spending time on this website, seeing the products, being engaged with it. And what we see is that people spend 4 games per person on average, and then per game they spend on average about a minute. So I'm going to try and let it sink a bit, but that means that through this format, they're getting 5 minutes of attention from this one consumer. If we go back to the previous example we saw with an advertisement on a website, it's often click or no click. And then if you click, yeah, okay, maybe you start browsing, there's maybe still a drop rate, but here you really have consumers spending time and creating a positive experience, a positive emotion around your brand. So even if it's not just data collection, it can also help to make you top of mind. The same for the lovers of the kanelbuller, the cinnamon buns. So Pågen is using Qualifio for their different brands, so their different bread brands across different Nordic countries, of which, of course, Finland is one of them. And they're using these formats to organize a range of contests with a very big focus on the brand awareness. So they want you, when you think of the cinnamon buns, to think of the Giflar and not maybe of another local brand. What's also interesting that they are using, which is an interesting mechanic in gamification, is not just to have the main prize, as we can see here, a bicycle, but also to work with a lot of, let's say, smaller prizes or gifts, or maybe in this case it was gifts, but it could be also discounts, for example, because you remove the situation where you have people thinking, oh, this big prize, I'm never going to win it, and you have people still taking part for the fun of it. And in this case, it was, again, a more gamified format, a repeated game, where it's a bit like the Simon Says game, every moment or every time there's a series of pictures that light up with the sound, and you have to repeat it in the right order. And if you're wrong, of course, you're out of the game. So these are all kind of, let's say, gamification formats, interactive marketing formats that these brands are using to connect with the consumer, to make them spend time on their website, to make them have a positive emotion, and in the end also to get to know them better. Because these moments, as we mentioned, like with Pågen, if you're spending 5 minutes, if the consumer is spending 5 minutes with you, that's the moment when you can ask them also about more information, not just when they land on your website with a big pop-up in their face, but when they are already engaging, interacting with you, is really the moment also when you can ask, for example, their contact details or their preferences or what their intentions are. So again, cereal partners worldwide. So it's a part of it's the cereal brands of Nestle. They're using these formats again, not only in Finland but across all of Europe, to increase also sales, because we didn't touch upon it in the previous example, but again, here there's a code, people can win an Xbox. There's more than 2 participations per participant. Well, that means that, of course, there's also serial lovers that first buy and then come, but there's also people that want to win the Xbox and that buy 2 boxes instead of 1 to fill in their code that they find on their box to participate. So again, these kind of interactions can link the offline and the online worlds and can also push basically the consumption of the consumer. As I was very much focused on FMCG companies and let's say food companies that are selling, let's say directly one shot a very cheap product, I thought it was also interesting to share an example about Pori Energia. Yeah, very relevant today with all the energy prices going loco, let's say. But yeah, basically what they are doing again is instead of just pushing the one message, come at us, come, we're the best, come at Pori Energia, they say, okay, let's figure out together with you based on this number of questions, which let's say energy program is the perfect one for you. In this case, for example, the Premium Moderni, and then the last words I'm not going to try and pronounce, but then I can take the test again, or if I feel that this is indeed maybe interesting to look more into, I could go and figure out more about it. So again, also for maybe complex offerings, as yeah, energy programs are not always the easiest to compare. Also, it's also on the educational level and a very fun and easy way also to explain different concepts to consumer, because sometimes we're already pushing the message buy or don't buy without having explained to the customer what our product is. And so that's actually a very good reflex here of Pori Energia to start with this start. And this is often the point in a presentation where I get the feedback, but yeah, is it something that we should be doing because we're working in a completely different industry or different sector, and it maybe doesn't fit our brand image? And that's also why I already made a mistake a couple of times before today. We try not to use the word gamification too much, but focus on interaction. But it can be basically anything. So there's a couple of tips we want to give when you want to start building these kind of interactions that you have to think about first before you say, okay, we're going to do a contest, or we're going to do a game, or we're going to do a survey. So the first step we would advise you to do is to think, okay, who is our audience? That's always a good start. Who are they? What do they want? What are their demographic groups maybe? And then how, what do they look like? What are they looking for in life? And then you're going to think of a tone of voice also that is linked to your values. So you're more going to think about, okay, who are we as a brand, and how do we want to communicate to our consumer? Is it in a formal way, in a very serious way because we want to look very professional, or is it more in a playful way where we want to create kind of a fun experience around our brand? So that's the first two things. Who are the others and who are we? Of course, number 3, the narrative. So the story needs to be a compelling story. It needs to be an interesting story. It needs to be something triggering. And for example, things like fear of missing out are interesting, let's say, concepts to use to make storytelling more triggering to a consumer. And then you need to look at the different content formats, so the different shapes these interactions can take. So you're going to design basically the user flow, what they are going to do, how they are going to interact with you, and on which channels this is going to happen. Is this going to be just people when they're working on their desktop? Are they maybe coming from LinkedIn? Or is this on mobile when they're scanning a QR code when they're walking around in the supermarket? Might be in the mobile app when they're already on your channel. So depends, but of course, the place where you're reaching your consumer will also impact the way that your call to actions should work. And that brings us neatly to the call to action. So it's interesting to think of a call to action that can be a bit more, let's say, enticing, and not just click here or start, but more already trigger the consumer to figure out what's behind this. And then a last one, it's on step 6, but maybe in the flow it might be a bit earlier, but it's important to think in which stage of your marketing funnel this content is used for. Is this to create awareness? Is it that you want people to spend the time with you, to think of you, to think positively of you? Or is it more to generate leads, for example? Do you want as many people to leave their contact details with you? Or is it to have as many people as you can to maybe make a purchase on your website? Because based on what your objective is here and which stage in the marketing funnel you are, you also want, for example, to adapt the interaction. For example, if you want to make a purchase or propose a purchase, in this stage, we could assume that maybe you know already a bit more about the consumer and you make it a very personalized interaction. But you want to make the hurdle for the consumer as low as possible, so as little steps as possible in the interaction. So that's all a couple of things to think about when you're designing the interactions on your website, on your app, on your social media with the consumer. So again, an example that is more, instead of the pure gamification, is a bit more top funnel. So we're here more in the awareness phase. So we're maybe between awareness and consideration. So it's also a bit a taboo topic maybe, but what happens after you die? What are maybe the legislations? Because there's probably also, and probably most certainly not going to be the same in Belgium than in Finland. Well, for example, these kind of interactions are an easy way to, in this case, show a couple of situations where people, in this case, Tina and Temu, can be in. And for Opulency, gonna explain in this situation, how will, forgetting the English word now, but how will the inheritance work, for example, based on family ties or this kind of things, which helps, helps people also maybe understand the knowledge, but because for a lot of people it's maybe something they know they maybe should think of or maybe don't know even yet, so they realize that, okay, this is maybe something I should keep in mind. And then once they're going through this phase and this let's say phase of realization, then after they have been nurtured, it's maybe the moment to say, okay, would it be interesting to maybe plan in a chat with one of our people to talk about your situation, what does it look like for you? So you're on the one hand explaining these kind of complex concepts and creating a brand experience where here it's not the playful games as we saw before. It's more we want to look professional, serious, but you still create a positive experience and a professional experience, which is what you want in the end. So we've had our chapter on engagement, and as we mentioned in the beginning, it's a bit different from the pure advertising view where you had the click or don't click. So engagement is not something you measure just in the number of impressions and the number of clicks, but here we're more going to look at I already mentioned, for example, the time spent. How much time is a consumer spending with our brand? If we are, again, if you are top funnel, we want people maybe to spend as much time as we can with us to remember us. If it's lower funnel and we want people to convert, to leave their email address, to make a purchase, the time spent can be a bit lower, but the effort in this case is gonna be a bit higher. Maybe not the real physical effort, but the emotional effort of taking your wallet, well, not physical wallet anymore either, but making the effort to do something. And then of course the last one, emotions, is then making sure, okay, we have people spending time, they are doing something, they're interacting, they're not just consuming the content that you are pushing to them. So this is also going to convey an emotion. And of course, I've been saying positive and negative emotions, but there's much more emotions. We're very emotional creatures. There's much more emotions than that. So it can be, yeah, a different range of emotions you can think of that you want to convey with your consumers. So we have been talking about interactions. We have been talking about how they can deliver engagement, how they can make people spend time, have different emotions when they're interacting with your brand. But of course, when you're interacting, this is also the ideal moment to get to know your consumer better. And in this cookieless world, it's in a moment where you might be able to collect what we call zero-party data. Very simple, zero-party data, it's a new word for something that has been existing for hundreds of years. It's the information that you, as a company, directly ask for to your consumer. There is a small nuance, because we have been talking as well about first-party data, the difference between zero-party data and first-party data. With first-party data, you're also asking for something to your consumers, but with zero-party data, you're also giving value in return. This can be a gift, this can be information, personalized information that might be interesting for me, but the nuance, the difference in nuance is really the value exchange between you as a brand and the consumer. So the idea with zero and then first party data and these interactions are also that when you're just relying on the behavior of the consumer on your website, just where they are clicking or where they're browsing, there are still limits in what you can know. There's assumptions you can make, sure, because I'm looking, for example, for, let's say, female tennis clothes. You could maybe assume that I'm a woman, but it might be that I'm buying this for my girlfriend. So there are pieces of information that you really cannot figure out if you don't ask them directly to the consumer. And this is where also these interactions can help you figure out the information that you cannot figure out just by spying basically on the consumer. An interesting one, it has nothing to do with Qualifio, by the way, but it's just an interesting story to explain a bit how this nuance of zero-party data differs a bit with first-party data. So also hotels.com, their system has changed a bit. It's not the exact same system anymore than on the screenshot, but I had to think of it because it's a personal experience I had a lot when I was traveling to, for example, Helsinki. So it's a booking website. Most people know it. It is very similar to booking.com, and very important on those websites is to have a lot of reviews, so you know, is this a nice hotel, is this not a nice hotel. Of course, everybody goes to the hotel, has an opinion, but either you had a very, very good experience and you say, okay, I'm gonna give it 5 stars. Either you should have a very bad experience before you say, I'm gonna go on this website to give a review, because it's an effort. So most people actually do nothing. What was interesting with hotels.com is they have this reward program where you can save stamps, and if you spend 10 nights, you get 1 night for free, which was very nice for me. I was in Helsinki, and then if I spent or if I saved 2 nights, I could also stay the weekend, which was nice to discover, for example, Nuxio National Park. So what did they do? So they want people to leave more rewards. So they give an incentive. They said, okay, in their email, rate it now and you will get an extra stamp. For me, this was a very valuable one because I stayed only 1 night, but I got 2 if I just also received value out of it. So what's been interesting about this example is the timing. Of course, they're sending this right after my stay, but also just sending a reminder if I'm not directly leaving my review afterwards. So there is also a time limit, so I can leave a review. You see, 2016, we're talking about a long time ago, but you can leave a review until a certain moment. So they create some scarcity, and there is a value exchange. I'm rewarded for sharing, in this case, my data, my preference data or my feedback, and yeah, they're creating this fear of missing out, this time limit, to make sure that I'm really going to act. So that's why I thought it was a nice example to share with you today. It doesn't always need to be complex, so can also be very simple. You have a contest, you have a product, you have a survey where you can leave a simple form, ask them about their contact details, ask them which products that they have used, or if they have bought your product before. And it doesn't always have to require big integrations with other tools, but it might be very interesting for Nesquik, for example, to know if I already tried Nesquik before, to maybe change the ads to the people that have used it before and the ones that haven't used it before, and maybe to focus on the consumers that might be most valuable. So very simple questions can already be used if you're doing multiple actions throughout the year, to maybe adapt the different actions you're doing a bit based on the people's feedback during your previous interactions. Another example here, we're going flying all the way over the ocean back to Belgium, and Ego is a kitchen company, as I trust you have a lot of them as well in Finland as well, where you can go and find your own kitchen. And what did they do? They created, let's say, a more playful experience to find the kitchen of my dreams. So what's nice here is that because I'm participating, they can directly already flag me as, okay, as this person is swiping to find the kitchen of his dreams, this is a person who is now trying to find a kitchen, which is very important for them, because roughly you buy a new kitchen every, let's say, 10 years. There might be people more and less, but let's say roughly 10 years. So if they can figure out that I'm looking for a kitchen at that right moment, and then they can figure out, based on this playful experience on mobile, that I'm actually more interested in, for example, a modern kitchen instead of let's say non-modern kitchen. My English is not too bad, it's not too well this morning. They can also personalize their retargeting, their emails or their messages they're sending to me. And what they noticed is that when people, so this is, for example, this was published online on their website, but also when they had different trade fairs. In Belgium, we have big trade fairs called Batibo, where you don't only have kitchen companies, but all types of companies around renovation, because in Belgium, we like to renovate a lot. And they're on this trade fair, there is this stand where they are presenting their kitchens. They have this QR code where, or back in the days before COVID, this iPad where everybody could use the same tablet to find their kitchen. People go to their stand, they can win a prize to win their kitchen of their life, and they share a bit of information. They noticed that when they compared the emails they gathered from people just like that on their website versus the ones that filled in or that interacted with them before, that there was a 10% increase in their click-through rate in the emails that they were sending afterwards. So not only in the open rates, but really in the clicks that people are doing inside the emails that they're putting. So they're also personalizing, of course, emails based on what they said. Another one, thanks to, we already had the energy, but now that the interest rates are rising, the property values or the properties are also getting much more difficult to purchase. So Keytrade Bank, we're still in Belgium, by the way, Belgian bank, is trying to identify potential home buyers. Again, you don't buy a house every year. Maybe there's some people, but there's not too many people. And they're doing this by organizing a quiz test where people can figure out. So on the left side here, we have a description of an apartment in Brussels. So it's an apartment in the heart of Brussels. It's 50 square meters. It does have a terrace, 1 bedroom, and it's new built. So it's not a, it's yeah, in a new built apartment block. And they're asking, how much do you think these properties are worth? And they're doing this with real data from the Belgian Statistics Office. You have 3 options, and you can guess, okay, how much will this be worth? So these are kind of interactions which help me as a prospective home buyer to figure out if it fits into my budget. But also these are the moments where they can ask, figure out, do I have the intention to buy or maybe to rent? And maybe at the end, they can ask me, okay, after seeing this, are you still considering to buy a house? If not, renting and these kind of things. Because of course, they're also selling different kinds of insurances, budgets, and the current living situation. Am I living with my parents? Am I living with a girlfriend? Am I living alone? Is it an apartment? Is it a house? What am I looking for? So these are basically all types of information that are first party, or let's say zero party, that they can ask, and that they cannot necessarily figure out about me by just seeing how I'm surfing, and yeah, definitely not anymore by sharing them through third-party cookies. Another example that I found very interesting, the examples you see are from Sweden, but Klépierre is let's say a company that owns more than 100 shopping centers in over 12 countries. And on Wikipedia or on their website, so rather will be their website. On their website, they say we attract more than 1 billion visits each year. 1 billion people go into all of these shopping centers. But the crazy thing is that they are going to the shops inside the shopping center. They are going to H&M. They are going to Stadium. They are going to all the different shops inside the shopping center. So they're never really directly interacting with the consumer, which makes it very difficult for Klépierre as a company to promote their shopping center, because they don't know basically who is coming into their stores. It's the H&Ms with their loyalty programs that identify the consumer, or through the purchase that figure out who their consumers are. But Klépierre doesn't have this information. So they need to interact with the consumer, with the people coming into the shopping center, to figure out who they are, so they can figure out, for example, maybe that last week I was in the Alum shopping center, but maybe I don't live there. I'm a Belgian. I just was there for 1 week. So they can figure out, okay, how can we retarget this person, if we can retarget this person, because if they're going to send ads to me, they also need to pay for that. So maybe it's better for them to know just not to pay any ads for a person like me, as I'm probably not gonna return there very often. So it's a very interesting way for them to identify people and to segment them, to figure out what do they like, which are their favorite stores maybe. And once also, and that's the beauty of it, once they start knowing who is coming to their visitors, once Klépierre can say, this is for example, in Emporia, we have an identified customer base of maybe 10,000 people, 25,000 people that throughout the year come to Emporia. And these are the demographics and these are the segments. This is information they can also use to offer to the different retail stores to have promotions. And then they can have a new business model where they can say, look, through our segments, you can create, for example, your own campaigns on our digital channels, on the Klépierre website, on the Emporia website. So again, a reason or a way to explain that, it's in a lot of business models important to figure out who people are, to stay alive. So we went from interactive marketing to engagement, how to make people pretty engaged, and how to measure it, and how to collect data about these people. And of course, in the end, we're not collecting data for the sake of just collecting data. In the end, we want to convert them. We want them to do something in the end, making a purchase, preferably. depending on the business that you're in. And then again, it's the importance of personalization or contextualization cannot be underestimated. For example, a good question is when you're promoting, let's say, summer holidays, it's also interesting not only to know where I'm gonna go. We already know from earlier this presentation that I should go to the Italian mountains, or I already went. That's also something they maybe don't know yet. But it's also interesting to know when we book our summer vacation. For example, there's a lot of people that do it 6 months beforehand. I can say, for example, personally, we went with our friends, we're 3 or 4 weeks beforehand. We are quickly still looking on Airbnb if we can still find something that is within our price range. We're always too late. So it's interesting to know this kind of information to figure out, okay, if you know, I'm looking into February to have my summer at, February it's still winter, but I'm already promoting the summer holidays. And again, most of our customers notice that the click-through rates of these retargeting ads, of ads that they personalize based on the data they know about people, based on this first and zero-party data, they notice that their click-through rates are 10 times higher. And again, yeah, there might be, for the booking companies, there might be indeed some historical data that they can use, but still, it's only the data they have on when you made your last purchase. That's for existing customers. So the only way of knowing this kind of information is often only through, again, interacting with the consumer. Another example, completely different sector of Decathlon. I don't think you have Decathlon in Finland, if I'm not mistaken, but it's a French retailer of sports goods. You can see I used Google Translate to automatically translate, so there's still some French in there. But basically, this is a campaign that dates back from the Corona period, so we're still all in a lockdown. And I don't know the exact situation in Finland, but in Belgium, we were all stuck, and the only reason we could go out and we could also see other people was when we were doing sports around our house. So a good campaign for them was, okay, what new sports will you discover this summer? And basically, what did they do? First, they organized a kind of survey, kind of personality test, asking me about what I'm looking for when I'm doing sports. Is it to face myself and a little the loneliness, to spend time with the kids, to see my friends again? Already what I was saying before, for me it was with my friends, but here I'm also sharing that with the people, or with Decathlon, or to meet completely new people. And they are then sharing a profile at the end with the top sport and a couple of other sports that could be great for my next summer sports. But it doesn't stop there. So when I click here on my summer sports, and this is where, when we were talking about the personalized content, where maybe they could have improved their call to action a bit, because we just see the name of the sport, but we don't know what's behind it. But what they did afterwards, so let's say I clicked on tennis. We have here le free badminton, so you see it's translated from French. So let's imagine I want to do tennis. Then there's, of course, different gear that I need. And again, this is information they cannot know just from spying on me when I'm surfing on the Decathlon website. And that's also the problem. Again, today they can only track me anymore on the Decathlon website and not on other websites. So for tennis, there's a couple of things you need, and they offer these discounts to people if they share in their checklist what the gear is that they're still missing. Is it the racket, or the shoes? Is it the tennis balls? And based on that, they're actually just, instead of giving a whole discount on all of the web shop, it's something you often see. You arrive on a web shop and you see 10% on everything. And most of the time you'll say, okay, 10%, yeah, well, it's just 10%. But here you're creating also kind of a fear of missing out, where you're saying, look, if you do this interaction with us and you share this with us, you can get this 10%, and it is available for maybe a week or a month, which is creating much more reason for people to basically act on that and make that purchase. And they also saw that there's a higher conversion rate for people that first went on those shopping guides versus the standard landing pages where you see an advertisement, you click and you buy or you don't buy. A similar one, we're moving a bit from Belgium to France at Le Slip Français. It's literally the French underpants. So what they are doing is they don't only, they have a large base, let's say, of fans. It's a brand with a big fan base. You can see it a bit like maybe you have the happy socks. You also have people that like funny socks. Well, in France, they have people that are a fan of the French slips or the French underpants. And we're doing a very simple activity on their website. They had this Wheel of Fortune giving away 1 free underpants. But you could only have, as you can see appearing in a second, you could only have 1 try a day. Why were they doing this? They wanted people not only to spend time with us, but they wanted people to return again tomorrow. So this is a way for them to make people come back every day on the website, see the new products, see the new promotions, and identify them. So they saw here that they had about 33,000 participants, and out of those they got 13,000 new profiles, of which 30% opted in on their website. So this was for them also a huge way to identify the fans that are surfing on their website but maybe not making a purchase yet. Now we all know the cliche of it's much more difficult or more expensive to find a new customer instead of keeping an existing one. Of course, it's always interesting if we have people making a first purchase to make them purchase more, depending on what kind of business you're in. So it's something we realize ourselves as well as a company, that instead of these one-time actions, always these one-time campaigns, these one-time interactions, it's interesting to start thinking more of them in terms of one, let's say, larger story, one larger loyalty strategy. So a first step we saw appearing from our customers that made us realize that we needed to think more of how can we link all these interactions, is that more and more of them started creating these kind of content hubs where they wanted to create one place where people could return and have this kind of I remember at Chipset they call this a customer promise. It's something that the customer knows, if I go on this website or if I open this newsletter, there will be this type of content that I will find back. In this case, if I go to the campaign page at Nestlé, there will be this page with all these contests. But I'm not really triggered yet to go there every time. It's there. If I know it, I can come back, but still there's nothing really linking all these campaigns together. That's why more and more brands are now moving to real, let's say, loyalty programs. And I like this example because it's, again, it's very much linked to the tone of voice of a brand. This is not a super sexy, let's say, food or cereals brand, but Pure Pills is a French company. It's kind of a French version of Cini you have in Finland. So basically, for the people that don't know it, let's say, improve your environmental impact for your cleaning products, instead of buying new bottles every time, you just have a kind of tablet. In French, they call it a pill that you drop in a cleaning bottle, and you can reuse the same cleaning bottles by just buying the pills instead of the bottles every time. And they have created a kind of loyalty program that is having different kind of rewards based on how much you interact. So you have kind of statuses. People can really also show what kind of link they have with your company, if they're just first-time users, or if they're really, let's say, gold members, the engagés, as they say. And there's also different ways of earning points, and this is not only linked to the purchase, and that's a very important one, a big change, because again, we're not reinventing the wheel. This is not rocket science. Loyalty programs have been there for maybe 100 years. They existed even before the internet. But what's different today is that you can start rewarding people, not just for the purchases that they make, but also for the interactions that they do with your brand. And again, this is on one way, a way for you to steer the behavior of the people, what they are doing, and also a way for people to come back. And they have this one portal where they can find back all the communication that they have with your brand and can see the updates, not only of the brand that you send to all of the customers, but that is interesting specifically for them, specifically for the rewards they want to get. And again, here, this offers again a way for a consumer to choose what they want to interact with you for. If I'm doing a contest, I'm often having, like I said, I have maybe one big prize and a lot of little ones, but I don't know if that is the incentive that is going to trigger this person. With these loyalty programs, if you can have people choose themselves what they want to get in return, for example, have access to contests, get the €5 vouchers, maybe the 25% off or the 10%, they can choose themselves. And that's again a way to trigger more and more people to interact with the brand instead of just the one-shot campaigns, and to link everything together in a nice story. And this can even be, it doesn't always have to be linked to purchases. For example, for CSR reason, you might want to have people interact with your brand, and they could be saving to, I don't know, plant trees. So it can be as creative as you want. And again, the 6 steps that we shared earlier on the content or interaction production can also be interesting to think about, okay, what can a loyalty program or a club for our members look like for us? And for example, if we look at L'Oreal, cosmetics brand, what are they doing? They're working a lot with samples and a lot with influences. It's always been very difficult for them to figure out, okay, how is what's the return we are having on these kind of influences, and what they're doing with these influencers and campaigns now is they are asking people, instead of just promoting a product, to drive them through a free sample page. So they can, in this case, we have this person called Shay Mitchell. She's promoting something. Instead of just showing it, I can also try it myself, but I can actually have a personalized, not me, but maybe for my girlfriend, a lipstick, where I share a couple of questions. They get a bit of information, and they can, basically figure out a bit of more information about us. And they do this for all kind of perfume. We see here a similar example with Giorgio Armani, also from L'Oreal, basically, asking what kind of fragrance are you looking for, and then proposing something. And again, that's why these loyalty programs are so important, is the fact that if you're buying this for someone else, or if you like it, yes or no, if it's referred by a friend, you're often gonna trust it more, and chances are much higher that you're gonna go for one of them if you heard a positive feedback about the product. And that's why these loyalty programs using referrals can actually also be a huge boost in attracting new customers as well, and not just only retaining the existing ones. Okay, I think if I'm looking at the time, we're almost exactly on time. We have some time for questions left. If you want to figure out more, on the right, every year we create a marketing calendar It's a kind of content calendar that can help you figure out some inspiration about what you could do throughout the year to engage with consumers. And actually on our blog, we constantly produce, actually on a weekly basis, we publish articles with inspiration, and you will find, I think, campaigns of the month. That's every month we do 5-6 campaigns where we explain the full story of all our different brands that are working with us. There's also really ebooks on data, cookies, on engagement, maybe on sectors also, on specific FMCG ebooks or banking ebooks that you can find there. So there's a lot of content there, and there's a newsletter, of course, you can also subscribe to. If you say we want to have a personalized chat to figure out what can it mean for us, then yeah, feel free also to get in contact with us afterwards if you don't want to go into the questions right now. And we're always happy to also have a look at your company and try and do kind of an audit of what it could look like for you guys. I don't know if you already have any questions in the chat.
Thank you so much, Jill. This has been really interesting. There is actually one question. Are there any ethical issues or questions when gathering consumer data through different interactive campaign formats? Does GDPR set restrictions regarding this?
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to tell you an exhaustive list of what is possible and what not, but indeed, there are different classifications around GDPR that define it, and I'm not sure if I'm using the exact right term, but certain sensitive data is not allowed to be collected. So, for example, data about religion is something that shouldn't be stored, or for example, about medical data are things that shouldn't be stored. What we have done in our platform itself, but that's for large organizations as well. For example, let's say with Alma Media, there's 100 journalists creating campaigns in and quizzes and polls in the platform. We have one place where the person responsible for GDPR can pull a list with all the questions across all the campaigns that have been asked. So he has a direct view on, is there somebody in our organization that is, maybe because he doesn't know, asking questions that they shouldn't ask. So there are indeed limits to what you can ask, and yeah, that's more linked to the sensitive data, let's say. And of course, yeah, linked to GDPR, there always, of course, needs to be an active consent. So people actively need to say, I'm okay with you using my data for this or that reason. So the usage of permissions, opt-ins are also very important when, of course, you start collecting data.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Gilles, for your great presentation. It was such a pleasure to listen to you, and I'm sure that if anybody has any more questions, they can send them to you directly. And please, people, you can download the free calendar from this QR code, how do you say? And also the personalized demo. I'm sorry, my phone keeps beeping. But I think that we have to stop now because it's 11 o'clock. But thank you so much, and we hope to see you and Qualificio also again in our webinars. So have a great Wednesday, everybody. And thank you, Jill. Bye.